Ken Whiting with PaddleTV, and in this video we're going to talk about the mistakes to avoid when you're river kayaking, which can become deadly. The idea of this video isn't to scare you away from kayaking or from kayaking on rivers, because rivers are amazing places to kayak. Not only are they absolutely beautiful, but they often shelter you from the wind and the waves that you're often subject to on bigger bodies of water. The other nice thing about river kayaking is most rivers are narrow enough so that if you do capsize, you're within easy swimming distance to shore. And so generally, river kayaking is safe. But the fact that you're on the water and the fact that rivers can have strong current means that there is the potential for things to go very wrong if you don't know the hazards to avoid. And so that's what this video is about. This video is about what mistakes to avoid to have a safe experience on the river. I'm going to get geared up, hit the river, and we're going to dive right into it. But first, I need to send a quick thanks to the sponsor of this video, and that's Dry Robe. Dry Robe is best known for the changing robe that I've been using for the past 2 years. The Dry Robe allows you to get changed in comfort and discreetly inside the robe. But it goes beyond that. It's such a cozy piece of gear. I just use it to hang out in too. In fact, it finds itself in my wife's vehicle as much as it is in my vehicle because she loves it for outdoor events, whether that's festivals or usually it's my daughter's soccer games or beach volleyball games. If it's wet or cool out at all, it's just a super comfy piece of gear to wear outdoors. Now this is the cool weather or cold weather version, great for fall, winter, spring, but they have a much lighter changing robe for the warmer months as well. The other piece of gear that I've been using for the past couple of years is this changing mat. It's got a waterproof side and it's got this super comfortable fleecy side, and you can just throw this down on the ground. Now you have a clean and cozy place to stand while you're getting changed. It makes a really big difference, and that's why it has a permanent place in my truck right in the door. Dry Robe makes a whole bunch of different pieces of gear, all geared around being cozy and warm and enhancing the outdoor experience, and so definitely worth checking them out. But I am now going to put this into practice. I'm going to quickly get changed here, hit the water, and we're going to dive right into this video. Whoa! Pay attention to what you're doing, Ken. I'm on a river now. I'm on the Ottawa River at what is very high water. It's fair to say it's floodwater conditions. And so it's a great place to talk about river kayaking and the real dangers. And the first big mistake that can be deadly when river kayaking is the most basic one. It's got to do with this thing right here, wearing a PFD. If you've watched my content in the past, then this is not a new message, but if you haven't watched my content, then maybe this is the most important message you'll ever hear, which is no matter what you're doing, when you're kayaking, you need to be wearing a PFD. Your PFD is no different than the seat belt in your vehicle. In that 99% of the time, it's not going to make a difference. You don't need it because, well, you just don't need it. That's not why you wear it. It's for that 1%, for that chance that something really bad happens, and then it's a total difference maker. And that's why you always wear your PFD, even though a lot of the rules, depending on what province, state, country you live in, say that you just need to have a PFD with you. That's not good enough, because it's not about checking a box. It's about staying safe, staying alive. So wear your PFD anytime you're on the water. Now, another quick note about PFDs. PFDs and life jackets are different. Life jackets are, simply put, they're designed to keep an unconscious person belly up and head above the surface so the airways are open. PFDs, like I'm wearing right here, they're not designed to do that. They're personal flotation devices, they're swimming aids. They're designed to dramatically improve my ability to swim and to allow me to float without having to tread water. Basically just allows you to be in the water for much longer without reaching an exhaustion point, and to deal with rough conditions so much better. They're huge assets. The reason a lot of people don't wear them all the time is because they're uncomfortable. And that's usually because you get a cheap one, or you get a life jacket, which isn't designed to be paddled in. Paddling life jackets are designed to keep the bulk away from your arms, give you maximum room for movement, and just be comfortable in general. I wouldn't notice any difference really if I was wearing this or not wearing this, and so I have no reason to take the PFD off, and that's why you get a paddling PFD. Not only are they better for paddling, they're more comfortable, but you're less inclined to take them off. And so the next mistake that paddlers make when river kayaking that can be deadly is not really considering water levels. And this is a perfect example. I'm in super high water, floodwater conditions here, and I do this knowing of the real risks. The problem when the water is really high on rivers is that the current is going to be more powerful and faster. You're going to have less calm water. You're going to have more whirlpools, swirly water, so that you have, well, for one thing, more things to flip you. Second thing is more things to cause problems if you do flip and you find yourself swimming. And the third thing is things can quickly snowball out of your control when you're dealing with strong currents. And currents can be a lot stronger in high water than you could imagine that same riverway being in low water conditions or normal conditions. Some rivers are free flowing, and they can change water levels dramatically due to rain or snowmelt. Other rivers are dam controlled, and they can change dramatically without any warning. The dam can simply release water. You have to be aware of changing water level conditions and be ready to adopt a plan B, if not even just take off right away. Once you think things are moving in the wrong direction, the water's getting high and it could become a problem, make the decision, get off the water before it is a real problem. Next up, the big mistake people make is taking the wrong kayak on a river. And this particularly makes a difference on rivers with real current. And the problem is, if your kayak swamps and you're in the wrong boat, it can be almost impossible to deal with, and it can literally drag you downstream into problem areas. The worst kayak to take in strong current is a recreational sit on top or sit inside kayak. Not all recreational sit inside kayaks are bad, but a lot of them are. And the reason they're a problem is because recreational sit inside kayaks usually don't have bulkheads in them. And I'll get to what that is in a minute. What happens is if you flip, or maybe just a big wave breaks over you, you swamp, your whole boat fills with water. And now you've got this craft that is barely gonna float that you have to deal with. Or maybe you can't deal with it at all and you're gonna lose it. Now let's talk about the kayaks that are good for river kayaking. You know, there's lots, but some key ones to mention are sit-on-top kayaks. The reason sit-on-top kayaks are particularly good for river kayaking and current is because they can't swamp. They're just filled with air. They always float, and you know, worst case scenario, wow, this is strong current right here. If you flip them, you can just flip them right back up on the water and crawl right back onto them. Inflatable kayaks are also great for river kayaking because they, even though you can get water in on top of them, they're always gonna float, and they're always gonna float very well. And then sit inside kayaks can be great for river kayaking, but you have to have a sit-inside kayak that has some type of flotation in them. And that brings us to the idea of bulkheads, something I mentioned before. Bulkheads are walls in the kayak that separate the kayak into different compartments. In this kayak that I'm in right now, it's a sea kayak. I've got a bulkhead in front of my feet, and I've got a bulkhead immediately behind my seat. What that means is if I flip and I have to pull this skirt and, go for a swim, then water's gonna fill the cockpit area of the kayak, but the two ends of the kayak are going to stay filled with air. And so the boat's going to float so much, it's going to float great. It's going to be so much easier to deal with for myself, for people I'm paddling with. It's possible for me to get back into that boat and paddle it to shore. You have so many more options. Now, the other type of flotation that you can use are airbags. Kayaks that don't have bulkheads, you can put big airbags in the bow and the stern of the kayak so that if you do flip and swim, then only so much water can get in the kayak because these airbags are taking up so much space. And that's another good strategy. That is a way to turn your recreational sit-inside kayak, which doesn't have bulkheads, into a river-worthy boat, is get airbags for the bow and stern of that kayak. So the next mistake that can be deadly when river kayaking is ignoring the dangers of low-head dams and strainers. Now, starting with the low-head dams, a lot of rivers have low-head dams. They don't look that dangerous. Typically you have this nice smooth water rolling into them, and then you get white water, but it's not these big waves or chaotic looking water. It can look very chill. But the problem is low-head dams, because they're man-made, they create a perfect hydraulic or hole at the bottom without any weak points. And so they do an unbelievably great job of holding anything that floats, including you. And so that's one of the reasons why so many low-head dams around the world are being removed from rivers, because they've been nicknamed drowning machines. They're that dangerous. Now, strainers. What are strainers? Strainers are fallen trees in the river or log jams in the river, anything that lets water through but stops other things, like you, if you're swimming or even in your kayak. Extremely dangerous features on a river. And rivers that wind and have eroded the banks, you'll quite often find a lot of fallen trees on them. Those are things to be very aware of and to stay well clear of. The problem with them is that oftentimes where those trees and logs collect and get stuck is where the current is pushing them. And so that means that's where it's going to push you too. It's going to push you right into the strainer, and unless there's enough current to easily avoid it, it can be a real problem. If you're not 100% sure that you can completely miss nowhere close to a strainer or a log jam, you're better off walking your boat, portaging your boat around it. And that brings us to another scary situation, which is shallow water drownings. Now, shallow water drownings happen when people stand up in current. It doesn't need to be that strong of current, but when you're swimming in a river with lots of current, and you start to feel bottom or below you by your feet, it's hard to fight the urge to stand up and walk to shore, but you have to. You have to fight the urge to stand up in strong moving water and continue to swim toward shore until you're out of the strong current. And the reason for that is the riverbeds are just a jumble of, you don't know what, rocks and logs and who knows what, and there's cracks and crevices and holes, and all it takes is your foot going into one of those and you'll lose your balance, you fall, the current knocks you over, and you can't get your foot out. It's stuck because the current is plastering you down. And people have drowned in literally 2 or 3 feet of water in that type of scenario. That's a shallow water drowning. Very simple way to avoid that. Don't stand up in fast moving water. Keep swimming to shore until you're out of the fast current, even if that means knocking your knees a couple times on the rocks. Way better than, the worst case scenario. So the next mistake to talk about is not scouting on a river when you don't know what's around the corner. Now, this only really makes a difference when you're dealing with current. Again, current is the common theme here. Current causes the most problems by far on the rivers, and it's surprising how much power relatively slow current has. What I love about rivers is it twists and turns and winds its way through the wilderness, through the countryside, and every time you come around a corner, it's like, oh wow, something new to look at. But there's also that potential for something dangerous around the corner. If you have enough current going around a corner where you're not sure if you're gonna have the control or the time to get out of the way if all of a sudden the worst case is there. Maybe a river, there's a tree that's fallen across the whole river, creating a river-wide strainer. If you're not sure that you have time to deal with that because the current is too fast and your skills aren't high enough, then you have to scout. And that just means getting out of your boat, walking down and taking a look at around the corner and seeing, oh, okay, it's free, it's open, it's all good to go. And the other thing to know about scouting is just because it was open the last time you paddled the river, it doesn't mean it's free and clear this time. If the river has gone through any major change since you last paddled it, then you can't expect it looks the same. Something new could be there. If it's the following year, you definitely need to assume that it's changed. And that brings us to the last mistake that unfortunately can be deadly when river kayaking, and that's not wearing helmets when appropriate. Now, the helmet isn't like the PFD. It's not like the PFD in the sense that you always should wear it. It's something that you need to wear when appropriate. When's the right time to wear a helmet? Well, the right time to wear a helmet is when there's a reasonable chance that you could flip. If there is a reasonable chance that you could flip, why wouldn't you wear a helmet and take that precaution? And typically what that means is anything above class 1 whitewater, you should wear a helmet. So what's class 1 whitewater? Class 1 whitewater is fast moving whitewater with maybe some ripples and waves, you know, very much what I've been paddling through today. Class 2 whitewater is that can be the same speed of water, fast moving water, but you get bigger waves. Maybe there's even obstructions where you need to navigate around them. When you reach that point, you really need to wear a helmet. But of course, there are other factors that weigh into this. For example, the reasonable chance of flipping for one person can be different than it is for another person. And that's really based on two things. That's based on a person's skill and experience in paddling in current, and it's based on the type of kayak that they're using. If in doubt, play it safe though. And as a general rule, if you're dealing with anything more than fast-moving current with just small little ripples or miniature waves, wear a helmet. Well, there you have it. Those are some of the biggest dangers that you have to worry about when river kayaking. As I mentioned before, they largely deal with current, rivers that have current, and all rivers have some type of current. Some it's almost imperceptible, but others, it can be very, very strong, and it can change dramatically based on the water level and the time of year. And so play it safe, don't make these mistakes, and have a great time on the rivers, because they're my favorite places to paddle. That's hard to say, because I love the lakes, Great Lakes in particular, and I love the ocean. I love paddling in general, but rivers have a special spot in my heart. I can't imagine not paddling rivers. I don't want to scare you away from paddling rivers, but I do want you to be aware of the real hazards. And so paddle safe. Hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to PaddleTV if you haven't already, and stay tuned for lots more tips, boat reviews, gear reviews, and paddling adventures, river adventures, ocean adventures, lake adventures. Oh, so many adventures to come. Yeah.